Natalie, it is always so nice to be chatting with you on the podcast, in person, all the things. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be back.
If any of you have not heard Natalie before, she is our money expert on the Light Path podcast. And it's so interesting to think about money being something that we would have on a essentially, I guess, energetic or spiritual business. But as we've discussed in the past, money is, after all, just energy, right?
Yeah, it sure is. I think that's the thing when it comes to money, we all think it's, the money in our bank account, it's the numbers, but there's so much more to money that I guess is also the reason why we do find it harder to feel more in control of our money, to find a really happy relationship with it, because there's the energy, there's the emotions behind money. So it's about understanding all aspects of it to ensure that you can really have that money transformation that's going to help you create the life you want.
And what I love about your work and your approach to work, I mean, yes, you are, an accountant by trade and you've worked in big corp, you've had your own businesses, but over the years of knowing you, you have this extremely grounded knowledge in financial advice, but at the same time, you are personally very passionate about self-development and really, filling out your life in every aspect. So the fact that you have been able to make those links between your professional knowledge, yet your personal interests, I think is really powerful for us because they're absolutely not separate. And I almost feel, especially as women, it's the last thing we look at, really. It's the thing we're afraid to look at.
Yeah, for sure. It's something, I mean, I think, growing up as little girls, we were told that, money is not something that women look after. We're not great at math. We're not great at numbers. That's something that the guys did. And so there's also the messaging that you grow up with that, women are spenders,
Mm.
not great at investing. And so we take all these messages on and then we think, well, that must be true. And so it's not until you get to your adulthood and you sort of realize or have this awakening that actually something's going to change here because I'm not creating the life that I want. And in order to be able to do that, something's got to change. And so I think a lot of women are starting to come to that place where it's like, okay, I want to actually get in control of my finances. I want to understand what's happening because the stats are out there that there's a lot of homeless women out there. It's really, really horrible what can be happening. And so it's so important that you take responsibility as soon as you can for your finances and, find somebody that can support you because, like I said, it's not something you were taught at school. We're not
Yeah.
taught personal finances at school. So it's something that you do need to learn, which you can learn. It's, just finding the right person, the right support, and having the resources that will allow you to do that.
And, the Light Path Collective's value or pillar is empowerment. And that's what we want to do. We want to empower, especially women, to really be that authority in all areas of their life. So when you're empowered, say in the area of money, you are not making romantic or social choices based on that or having that as a factor. And it just frees you up so much. Last year, when you came on to the collective, we talked, we kind of started to open that conversation of money, and the response was huge. So I'll link these in the show notes below. So if you haven't already listened to our episodes that we've done before, we talked about in one how we all hold these blocks to money, which is kind of what you were alluding to before in terms of our perception. And then at the end of last year, I think it was late last year, Natalie ran a Ignite Your Wealth challenge. And so many people jumped onto that, which for us, we just sat back and thought, wow, this is so needed and so welcomed. So we're definitely planning more stuff for you to crack open this conversation and to start to engage in material and conversations and inspiration around being really empowered with your finances. So please make sure you're following us on everything so that you know when these things come up, because I know a lot of you missed the Ignite Your Wealth challenge. And such a shame because it was a free challenge that Natalie put out there. But today I was speaking to Natalie a few weeks ago, and she was talking to me about just life. We were just chatting. She used this phrase and I was like, whoa, 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 back up. What did you just say? And the phrase she used was holistic wealth. Now, obviously, there's holistic health, there's holistic wellness, there's holistic medical care. Like there's so much holistic approaches, and I think more and more people are moving towards them. But what on earth is holistic wealth? Like, what are you talking about? I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, it's a term that came up after, I guess, more of my personal journey of what went through that. So, as you said, I'm an accountant by trade. I've always, unlike a lot of people, really enjoy budgeting and have been doing that for quite a long time. Always
Wait,
wanting
I'm
to.
going to stop you there. Budgeting. Can we ban the B word, because the way you describe it, I go to it all the time.
I know my spending, it's more of an intentional spending plan. So,
Yes.
it's
Spending plan. That's what we like.
yes, we'll get rid of the B word. So spending plans. So I have always been doing that because I've always wanted to know where my money's going, have my goals, savings, and all that sort of thing. And I think it got to, I was probably in my early 30s and I went through a period of burnout. And I remember going through that journey and understanding, like, how did I get here? Like, what was going on? And I know I was wearing a lot of hats. I was working really, really hard, wearing busyness as a badge of honor, like a lot of people were doing back then and still are. And I sort of just got like, what's going on? Because I had a lot of success in my life. I had achieved a lot. I had a great life. Like, there was no reason for me to be feeling, unfulfilled. And it made me go through, like I said, a journey. And what I came to it is that the reason why I wasn't feeling fulfilled is because the life that I was creating and the goals that I had weren't actually connected to my own sense of success or sense of happiness or the life I was wanting to. I was living up to society's definition of success and wealth. And so through that process, I was like, okay, well, obviously having wealth's really important because for me, it's about choices. Wealth allows me to have the choices to live the life that I want. But we need to make sure that we're living the life that we want. And so that's where the holistic part came in, because I was like, okay, understanding your numbers, your relationship with money is really important. But what about your purpose? Like, who are you? How do you want to be showing up? What is the life that you want to create? Not the life you think you have to create or live, but the one you want to. And then your well-being is such an important part because, I thought I was invincible and I pushed my body to the extremes, working really long hours, ignoring all the signals that it was exhausted, and also probably not on the path that was making me feel the most fulfilled. And so it was a bit of that light bulb moment. Okay, well, it's not just wealth or the money that we need to focus on. It's bringing back to the purpose, connecting that, and then also ensuring you're looking after your well-being, your self-care, which is the main thing for having a beautiful relationship with money, because the more you love yourself and respect yourself, that naturally flows to your money. And including all those. So you really do need to find a balance or an alignment between those three in order for you to create the wealth you want, the impact you want in this world, but also fulfillment in life, which for me is what I think we all want in the end of the day, is just to feel truly fulfilled and live a really meaningful life. And so that's where bringing the whole three came into holistic wealth.
I love that. And because, we often just separate it like we have to work. So I hear from women all the time, like, I might have this passion or this calling, but I have to pay the bills. Like, I have to work. And definitely when I was in a similar position to you, just really unhappy and physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially completely wrecked and just on my knees, it's almost like one affects the other, affects the other, affects the other. So it's not as if I could be really physically healthy and survive in my job and be in debt. It's not as if I could be wealthy and abundant in terms of money and be really unhappy at my job. Like, it all had to come together. It all had to be on par. And it's almost as if I learned in my moment of dark night of the soul, I had to lose it all to gain it all. And I had to look at it all together in order for it to actually fall in place together. And I'm testament to that is very, very true. And even just a matter of 5 years ago, the way I dealt with my finances, the way I had a spending plan, it wasn't a plan, it was a party. The way I had a spending party was all to compensate for the unhappiness I was feeling, and I could never get on top of myself, so I'd feel more unhappy, and it was just this awful vicious cycle that I was in. And so to kind of lose everything to gain everything was my first intro, I guess, to what you're talking about, holistic wealth. But how do we start this process? Like, if you break it down, is that how you do it? You break it down into those areas?
Yeah, so I mean, depending on who the person is that I'm working with, everybody is at different stages and have different things going on. So it can change slightly, but generally there's three particular areas that we'll focus on. So always coming back to, what is my relationship with money? What is my money story? As I said earlier, a lot of the time we take on truths of other people and we make them our own, because we never ever question a lot of things we do as adults. We've just done it all our lives and we think, well, that's how it is. And so it's just getting into that curious mindset and going, well, why do I do what do I do? Like, does this actually feel good to me? Does this feel right? And, it's a pretty good indication if you're not living the life that you want. If you don't have what it is that you want in your life, there's a misalignment there. So getting really clear on, what is my relationship with story? What's my money story? And there's a few ways that you can do this. So there's a simple one, just thinking about, what is my biggest money frustration at the moment? Writing it down and then thinking, okay, growing up as a child, what were the conversations? What were my parents' frustrations around money? Generally, there's some correlation between the two. And so that's a really good indication. Okay, well, I'm probably taking on my parents' money story, money relationship. And so if that's not serving me, I get to change that now. I get to write my own book. I'm the author. So it's about understanding, well, how do I want my relationship to be? Another way to do it is, again, think back to what happened as you were a child. And then if you can't think of a huge money frustration at the moment, is just over the next 3 to 7 days, have a notebook or the notes section in your app and just write down, every time someone says something about money, you hear something about money, you say something about money, you go to spend something or buy something, have a think about, even when you're receiving things from people, whether it's a compliment, someone wants to buy you a coffee, somebody asks you, what do you want for your birthday? Just think about what your response is and write it all down. And that will also, at the end of that 3 to 7 days, then compare that to what was happening when you were growing up. And again, there's generally some correlation that you can go, okay, well, this actually isn't entirely my story. I get to rewrite this, which I think is such a powerful thing to be able to do, is to know we are in control of our life. And, I say this all the time, our relationship with money is one of the most intimate relationships we will ever have in our lives. It's up there with a romantic partner, but many of us don't even think we have a relationship with money. So it's about getting really clear, okay, well, do I want to have a one-night stand relationship with my money, or do I want to start building a long-term partnership? And
Yeah.
hopefully a partnership that you want.
I know, and now I'm thinking about it, like I was a slut with money. I would just walk out the next morning, not think twice. And by the way, that is the only area of my life where I was like that. But having that money story conversation, like, you've just given us such good pointers, but I'm telling you, as someone who has had to work on this, I truly believe also that most important relationship with money, having someone guide me through it and sit with me when the emotions and the truths were really sticky and really confronting, was so helpful. It's like any of the work that we do on the life path. Like, could you all do it on your own? Absolutely. But oh my gosh, to be held in it and held accountable in it, to really like have to say the answers, is another level.
Yeah, it sure is. And like, that's what I say, money's such an emotional thing, because it's not about the money. It's about us. It's ultimately about our relationship with ourselves. And money is a really great way to see how we act from that perspective. It's a tangible way, which is why I love working with money, because it gives us such great indication or insights into how we're not only treating our money, but treating other areas of our lives, how we're showing up. And so it's But when that comes, and when we've been doing things for such a long period of time and we finally reach that point where we're willing, I think we just have to be willing, like something will happen and we're willing to, okay, go through that discomfort, because there is going to be a lot of discomfort with anything you do when it's a transformation, is to have somebody that there can hold that space. And I think even just reminding yourself, just to be compassionate with yourself. There's no judgment here. Nobody's judging. You're usually your worst. The only person who's judging you is you. And just to have that self-compassion and know that, you know, yeah, I'm here and this happened, but I did the best with what I could at the time. And now I'm doing something else. I'm going to make changes. So I'm going to do better this time. But just having that grace for yourself, because if you don't have that self-compassion and kindness to yourself, it's going to make this process so much harder. So having someone there that can really hold that space and allow you to be really vulnerable, because it is going to be a vulnerable process, is, like you said, it's really, really important. You can do it by yourself. I did it by myself for a long time, and now I'm helping people because it doesn't need to take as long as it did for myself.
And also, it's also about the literacy, isn't it? Like, I just don't know what to think about, because, like you say, has it been handed down to us? Was it ever taught to us? And all that kind of stuff. It's like everyone knows how to eat well, but having a nutritionist is so valuable. Everyone knows how to work out, but having, you know, a trainer there that's showing you exactly how to really execute the moves. And I have to say, in any of our money conversations, they're often filled with a lot of laughter, probably because I'm trying to avoid answering the questions. But recently, Natalie said to me, okay, so let's look at the business financial plan. What's the plan? I'm like, the plan is to earn money. I don't know. Like, what do you the plan is to pay the bills, I guess, get clients. Is that the plan? And she's like, God, no. And so to have someone to talk through some constructs and some, like, well, this is what you need to think about, is so helpful.
Yeah, well, we only know what we know. And so to have somebody who has the qualifications that's also lived it with through their life, I think is really valuable to have. And I think, you know, if every time you can bring fun and laughter to money is so important too, because I think it can also be something so serious when we want to have fun with it. Like it's that
Yeah, it's that
relationship,
love, right?
loving relationship with
Yeah.
it. Like, let's play with it. Let's
Yeah.
bring that playfulness back into it. And so, and you can do that when you're in the right spot to deal with money, because money wants to love you. Money wants to come and hang out and play with you. It's just that we tend to pushing it away and doing things that doesn't invite money to come in. So yeah, there's a few different areas with money. I mean, money is just not simple, unfortunately. There's those other factors that come in, which
Well,
is,
I think it's because it's energetic and we just don't look at it as energetic. I mean, all the time in my 20s and early 30s where I would spend, it was literally me pushing away that worthiness, pushing away that love, and choosing to keep it at bay. And so to go into that for, well, why? Like, is it trauma? Is it self-protection? And then those habits that are built over those years are really hard to shake, because, you know, it does, like you say, become part of your story. So I love that first pillar of the process of working with you, to just really be honest about the story that money is telling you about your life, and how it may not align to your potentiality or your true worth or your desires.
yeah, exactly. And I think what you said, like the worth is such a big thing, that it was really like that root cause is we just don't think we're worthy of it. We don't think we're deserving of it. But also, I think, you know, if women actually step into their inner financier, their power, they're going to be so powerful. And that scares a lot of women
Yep.
because of what could be, but also they're going to have to step up and take responsibility. And that's scary if you haven't done it before and we haven't been taught how to do it. But a lot of it is women are so powerful. And when they connect to this, because women are actually great with money, like that's part of our power, but we just have been told otherwise. And so for women, when they can connect to this and really step into their personal power, they become unstoppable. And that is can be quite frightening if you've been playing small for a long time.
Yeah.
So
And if playing small works for you to keep you protected and safe. But even if I think back, you know, I was going to say 50 years, but it's now like 70 years to the 50s. That's really depressing when I think about it. But anyway, um, if you think back to the 50s, for example, it was the man's job to earn it, the woman's job to manage it. Like we were the accountants of the family. The women did the household budget.
Yeah.
And so to think about it, it wasn't that long ago. But I think now that we're balancing out that masculine and feminine energy, we're now earning it.
Yeah.
And we have to manage it at the same time.
And I think too, like they might have managed it, but the men were the ones making the big financial decisions.
Yeah, like with the house and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the things that, yeah, those bigger decisions, which, yeah, and it's just, again, it's changing that mindset, but just having that self-belief and trust within yourself that, I can do this and I'm ready for it. And to not be afraid, like you might still make a decision with your money that might not be the best decision that you could have made, but it's having that belief that, that didn't go to plan, but I've got my back. I can go make that money again, or I can do a different decision. Like you get back up. It's just knowing that no matter what happens, I've got that trust and that stability and security within myself, which I think is really important, because a lot of time we look outside of ourselves for that stability and security when really it's coming from within us, and nobody can take that away from you. So no matter what decisions we make, no matter what choices, if it doesn't come off, if we take a bit of a risk and it didn't work, coming back to that really solid foundation, knowing, okay, what's next? Like, what's the next step? Let's take that action.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Do that is really important.
So after we know and have gotten to, be really surrendered to our money story, and perhaps, you help us craft ways in which we can start to rewrite it, what then?
So this is the fun bit, I think. It's moving into, again, that purpose side. So I like to call it your intentional success picture. So what does my life look like? What is the life I want to be living? So once we've sort of realized that maybe our money story isn't our story, then it's also looking, okay, well, maybe the life I'm wanting isn't the life I actually want. Like, what is it that is going to be connected to the success and happiness, the wealth that I want? So that's why I think it's really important to start with the money story. And like I said, money is really tangible, so you can figure out quite quickly whether you're living in intention with yourself or not. So coming back to my intentional success picture, so what does that life look like? How does it feel? And to dream big, this is your permission to actually dream big. Again, something women don't give themselves is that permission to just go for it. And don't get caught up in how, because that's the other thing we tend to do.
Yeah.
We're like,
Yeah.
I want but how's that going to work? Can't do it. I've got this, I just don't have to, like, forget that. Don't even let that come into the work. It's all about what's the best thing that I could have for my life, and dream big. And we'll work out how to make that happen in the next stage. But this is just about giving yourself permission to go big as you can.
Natalie, you wouldn't be impressed with my bigness. My bigness is like, do I actually have to even earn it? Can't I just spend it forever?
You have big goals.
I do have big goals, grounded goals. I'm just joking. But there's that little devil on my shoulder that just, can't help but wonder what it's like to not have to worry about it.
Well, that's what you're working towards.
Yeah, true.
So that's what the vision is. And then that's when we move into the third step, which we'll go into to make it happen. And I think, as with anything, it's having that patience, which I know nobody likes to do, especially myself, but it's about having that patience and I guess that faith that things will unravel if you're in alignment and you're showing up and you're doing the work.
Yeah.
Things are going to happen for you.
So talk to me about your experience of this stage. So you went through, you looked at your money story. So talk to me about when you sat with your big vision. How did you not get overwhelmed with it? How did you not get in complete and utter self-doubt or shame or false humility about it?
Look, all those things still come up, and they will always continue to come up. So every time you go into that next level version of yourself, you're stepping outside your comfort zone, your default, your normal. So you're always going to have the self-doubt, wanting things to happen quicker than they are happening. For me, it came down, again, that self-kindness, the compassion, having that belief, having a bit more, being a little bit realistic with your goals. I tend to put so much into a 12-month goal. And so it was going, okay, well, how are things going to happen? And then spreading it out over to a 3 or 5 year and breaking it down into 12 months and then quarterly goals really helped me. But I think the thing was just showing up as that version of me who's already living my dream life. So I'm already experiencing it. I might not have the end picture right now, but I'm still living like that version of myself. It just looks a little different, but I still get the same feelings that I want then. So even though it might not be here right now, I still get to feel that way. And I think that is probably what makes the biggest difference, because we have so much available to us that you don't need to spend money to feel the way that you want to feel. And when you look at your vision, that's why I talk about what does it look like, but more importantly, how does it feel? How do you feel in your life when you're living your dream life? Because you can feel that way right now. As I
Yeah,
said,
well, the episode next week, little preview, is actually about vibrate. Well, actually, I was asked to talk more about like fine-tuning your vibration or raising your vibration. And really, it's an opportunity I took to talk about quantum leaping. And that's exactly what quantum leaping is in the metaphysical world. It's just another word for it, but exactly what you've described there. It's just quantum leaping. And I would imagine that this is the phase where you were probably doing, correct me if I'm wrong, most of your self-development work, like seeing people like me and reading a lot and surrounding yourself with the materials and the resources that you needed to literally become the emotional and vibrational state that reflected those big dreams.
yeah, it is. But look, it took quite a few years into the journey to get to that, which is why I highly recommend working with somebody so that you don't get, I think I got stuck a little too long in trying to figure out what went wrong, like what was going on in me. And I think we can get caught in that rabbit warren where you're going down, and I'm someone who likes to know everything. Like I like to figure out why XYZ happens. And I think you can spend too much time in that part instead of getting out there and actually taking the action and living in alignment. And things will still come up and you'll still get your triggers and then go down, okay, why did I feel like this way? But you don't need to keep going until you think that there's this magical answer at the end of the road. You obviously need to find out parts of it and why you do X, Y, Z. But I think it's getting to that point where, okay, I've got an understanding of why I do what I do or why I did what I did. And then it's start acting like that. Who do you want to be now? Because it feels a lot better. And the more you act like that person, you're sort of going to also come out of that place of where you were doing actions or habits or behaviors that were self-sabotaging, where you're wanting to go in that place. So for me, it's, yeah, it was once I sort of did a bit more work and was, looking at things that you were doing and reading and doing other self-development stuff, came to realize that that's been the key for me, is to actually step into that version of myself now. Because when it comes to finances, you can say dream that successful life, that beautiful life you want to live. People think I've got to go spend money. Like I need to go buy or have a new wardrobe or this car or the house or go on these holidays then I'm living as the person I am. And I'm like, well, it's more of the behaviors. So what are the behaviors she would be displaying? Because that's what's going to attract those things into your life quicker than not living like her now.
Yeah, and that's definitely what you've helped me with, especially when it comes to being completely in relationship with money, because no one pays me, I have to pay me. And so even that was, I didn't realize that would be overwhelming, and it was overwhelming. And so to have, that hand holding through that was really helpful, because of course, as soon as you go into business for yourself, there's a truckload of fear because there's no security net. And so to have someone to hold you through that, to keep reminding you of the daily practices to do and keep you accountable for that, is really, really helpful. And I would imagine the same thing is felt by women who are like leaving marriages and then having to really be independent in their financial situation. I feel it would be the same type of experience. So that to me was just so, and continues to be very helpful. And then after that, the actual nitty-gritty planning stage, is this where the whole spending plan comes in, which I don't like doing?
Yes, this is where we take aligned action. So this is where the spending plan is. But I think it's really important to start changing mindsets around spending plans, because a lot of people
I'm
go,
sorry, I'm joking. I'm like totally picking on Natalie because she says this stuff and it blows my mind when she says it. And my two other favorite things is Natalie's like, do you have a money date every week? And now it's just like a weekly thing. I freaking love my cacao money date every week. I love knowing where my money's going. I love paying my bills. I'm picking on myself and you, but like because of you, I really, really love it. And um I'm quoting you back to you just because, I'm fangirling you today. Um, but the other thing I always remember whenever I look at my numbers and, I might be overwhelmed or I might be disappointed or whatever, I always remember what you say. Your numbers are just your, like, what is it? Your dreams in numbers or your vision in numbers. And it's like, yeah. And so if it's not aligning, that's okay. We just have to realign.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's instead of approaching a spending plan like it's boring, it's restrictive, it's
Mm.
limiting, I can't do what I want to do, make it
Yeah.
expensive. And that's what I love when you work with your intentional success picture first, you've got your vision. So all we're literally doing is translating our vision into numbers. So you want to get really specific. Yes, you have to get clear on, well, what are my living costs? I need to have a roof over my head. What do I need to really enjoy my life? And also, what do I need to show up as my best self? So a lot of the time we neglect ourselves, but I have regular acupuncture. I go to the osteo. Every now and then I see a nutritionist. I am looking after my body in ways that make me feel really good, but allow me to show up because when I'm showing up as my best self, I make the best decisions. I'm
Yeah.
also coming from a place of being open to all the opportunities. When you're tired, you're exhausted, you're cranky, you're closed down, your contract. So you're not going to be open to what opportunities are out there. And there's so many opportunities, possibilities coming our way every single day, but a lot of us are just closed off to it. So if you have a spending plan that you're clear on what my success picture is, and it's like, well, how much is it going to cost us to live our intentional success picture? Obviously, like I said, it's going to take a few years to get to that end goal, but what's something I can do now that might fit within the spending plan to start moving towards that now? So it just makes it feel so much better because you're already creating that life you want. And then, so you'll create that, put in your income and your expenses or your investments. And what you also want to do is get clear on what are my goals? Like, what are my short-term, medium-term, long-term goals? So we need to look after our future self. And this is something that I didn't do. I had a property, I had savings account, I was doing super. So I was doing things and looking after her, but I wasn't maximizing it because I was caught up in having to live or have a life that was successful, that was well. So I was
Mm.
spending money, probably not. And also one thing that I realized is that I wasn't waiting. Prince Charming is the term they'll say when you're waiting for a man to come into your life or a partner to come into your life to look after you, to take care of you, or you're waiting to win the lotto or have an inheritance. But for me, it was thinking, okay, once I get married, I'll focus more on my future self.
Mm.
That was, even though it wasn't as such to come and take, I still wanted to be involved in the discussions and contributing and all that. But it was like, that was sort of a milestone that I had for when I would truly focus on setting her up. So it's just really, and that's why doing the money story and even the intentional success picture, but just being aware, because that didn't come to me straight away. Like that was something that I was walking around the gardens and it just was like, oh my God, like, what have you been doing?
I love that. I think most of us do think like that. Like, or when the kids are at school, then I
Yeah.
start to think about it. When the business is successful, I'll think about it. When I get married, when I get divorced. But it's so true though.
And it's like, why didn't I think I was worthy enough back when I was in my early 20s, like to focus
Yeah.
on her now?
Yeah.
And so again, it's just, and that's again what I love about money, because there's all these things like, what else was I putting off until I got into a married? Like, so it's yeah, just really important to, I guess, and that's why being aware. So having that self-awareness is also really important throughout this and continuing onwards, because things will still keep popping up, as they all do with journeys and things like that. So yeah, working out what are my goals and making sure that we're putting money aside for that. And also something I really recommend is having a buffer account, an OMG account, emergency fund account, whatever you want to call it, for a few reasons. One, it provides that safety and security that there's money there if something was to happen, something with your house, your car, if you were to fall sick and you couldn't work, something happened with kids, whatever it was, you know that money's there. So you're not having to go into debt or you're not having to go into your savings account. But it's also a really great way to help you stay within your abundance mindset because you've got money there. So it just provides you with that thing. Well, okay, that money's there. So it allows you to think bigger, but also maybe take on some calculated risks, knowing that there's sort of that buffer backup account there. So that's a good tip. And once you have that, it's about, okay, well, now create my money environment. So money wants to feel safe. It wants to feel secure, as if a partner would in a relationship. So what is the environment you're providing for it? So if you've just got one bank account, that's not enough. We need to have a few more bank accounts, because if you're just going from that one account, you're going to see all this money in there. So you're just going to spend it thinking it's there, but actually part of that had to go to your goals, part of that had to go to your bills, part of that had to go to something else. So it's about separating. So once you have your spending plan, then naming your bank accounts for your goals is a really good idea. Having a separate bills account is another good idea. So you know that money's there when that bill comes. You're not having to go, oh my God, this bill's due. Where am I going to come up with all this money at the end of the month? It's already been put aside over the months that you've been collecting it. And then obviously the money date, my favorite day. So you can choose. I love a Friday because Friday's a fun day for me. And you want
Friday's
to
also the day of love. It's ruled by Venus. It's a very feminine day.
there you go.
Yeah.
So Finance Fridays. That's
Finance
what
Fridays. Yes. Look on our socials, Finance Fridays. And Nat is there every Friday with a tip, an inspiration, advice. Reach out to her and be like, can you answer this question for me on Finance Friday? And we'll make a post every Friday morning.
Yes, that's yeah. Please come to us with anything that you want, because we want to make sure that you're getting value out of it. So if there's anything that you want advice on or tips, please reach out. But yeah, having a day, so and setting the scene. So if I'm at home, I'll get the favorite candle out, put the music on, dress up a bit, put some lippy on, have my favorite drink and sit down and do it. If I feel like I need to get out, I'll go. I did it on my rooftop last week. The sun was out. Go to your cafe, the beach, the park, go to a wine bar, have a nice glass of wine or a cocktail and do your finances. Like, make it sexy, make it fun, because that's what we're wanting to bring into our relationship with money. And just bring that energy and that vibe is going to change the whole dynamics of when you sit down and look at your finances. Because if they're not where you want them to be, again, you bring that energy that I'm open, like, let's make this something real. And you'll be surprised by how easier it feels for solutions to come to you.
I love that. And so now, really stepping back and hearing all of that, the whole concept of holistic wealth isn't a pie in the sky idea. It's something that is actually in our nature. But are we really opening to the flow of that and the fun of that? I love that idea of really looking after ourselves so we can show up and earn the money that we desire to make, to fund our dreams and everything in between. And the fact that that's how you look at it, you're not just, people are not just coming to you and you're like, okay, here's an Excel sheet. And then you just want to literally go to the wine bar and drink wine because it's so boring. But the fact that it is a holistic approach is exactly why we're here on the light path.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's such a it's a yeah, it's a beautiful process once you find a way that works for you. And it's just having that alignment in through the whole three particular areas of your profit. So having the money that you can go and create the life you want, but making sure it's aligned with you and then your well-being, because you can also make a lot of money, but be on your way to burnout and not feeling great, or being able to enjoy your life, which was part of where I was. Then you could be purpose. So you could be fully living in intention with the life or the person you want to be, but you're not focused on your money. So you don't have the money to go create the life you want. And then the well-being is all a part. We work in order to create a life we want, but if we don't feel great, we're not enjoying it. And we're not also going to be earning our potential because we don't feel there. So if you can bring them all together, which is what I do, I don't think you can't just focus on one area or the other. Like it's all got to come together, and especially with wealth, which, and all these things what we're doing at the Light Path Collective plays into it too, because it's all about coming back and showing up as your best self, being your best self, which is the aim of the game.
For sure. Just one more thing quickly, even though it is a big thing. It's not lost on me that we're having this conversation as people are really struggling out there, because the reality is that we do live in this society, in this construct, and there is, cost of living, or all the things. Like, I don't need to tell you, but people may be listening to us right now and thinking, what? An OMG fund? Are you kidding? Like, I don't have a grocery fund for this week, What would you say to people at this time that just feel like this isn't, like, they're in survival mode? There is no way that they could engage in something like this because they're just too busy trying to navigate this until, and they will, where things ease and get better.
Yeah, I think it's, like you said, it's a really difficult and tricky place to be in for many at the moment. I think, working on your relationship with money is now, even though it might feel like the hardest time to do it, is the most important time to be doing it, because it's going to change. We can't change a lot of what's happening externally. What we have control over is what is happening internally with us. So if we can at least start working on a relationship with money, looking at ways that we can improve that and create a really loving, happy, respectful relationship with money, it's just going to change the way that we show up and how we approach it. When it comes to, working with the tangible side, it's getting your spending plan in place. And it might be, okay, this is what we've got, and how can we get a little bit more creative? What are ways that we can maybe save on certain things? And not other things. And like I said, there's so much available to us that we can do. And it's becoming, I think, aware of our financial spending and getting, a lot of us don't actually will know how much we spend on certain things. So it's about getting really clear, okay, well, where is our money going? Is it actually going where we want it to go? Because when money is a bit tighter, it's even more important that you're spending it on the things that you want and being really mindful of that. So I would first, have a look at your bank account, credit card statements for the last 3 months or so. See where your money's going. Are there subscriptions that you're paying for that you don't even use, or maybe you don't need them at this particular moment? Gym memberships, is there a way that we can work out in a different way as opposed to maybe going there? Groceries, are we going to the supermarket every 2 to 3 days? Can we maybe do things in bulk? Can we maybe do more cooking at home? Instead of going out for a drink with a friend, maybe we can go for a walk around the park, grab a coffee. There's certain things that we can look to find different alternatives, but I think get on top of your finances, know exactly where your money is going is first part, and then look at ways that you can, but also look at ways how you can increase your income. I think the first thing we tend to go is our expenses, but other things that you can sell in your house. When was the last time you did a spring clean? Like, there's generally things we have that we could sell to bring money in. Is there a side hustle that you could do? Is there something that you can, when was the last time you asked for a pay rise? Is there something you can do within your job? So having a look at,
and then that goes back to worthiness and money stories and things like that. Like, it's all, this is why holistically wealthy, or holistic wealth is really important.
Coming back into our money story, because we can also become a victim of what's happening externally and make that our story. And it doesn't necessarily need to be. There's still opportunities out there. There's still people making money. There's still people doing things. So it's looking at, there's no reason why you can't either. And I know that everyone has different circumstances, so that can be easier said than done. But it's just about looking and being open to those opportunities of how can I set yourself a goal. How can I make an extra $1,000 this month? What can I sell? Is there something else, a little service I can do? But if you're working for yourself, when was the last time you had a pay rise or asked for a pay rise? For women, it's probably a long time ago.
Yes.
So doing that, and then, yeah, just looking, I mean, get on Google. There's heaps of ways that you can go out and find other ways to bring revenue in. But I think don't just get, oh, well, what are we going to cut? Look
Yeah.
at that.
Yeah.
Also look, how can I bring more money in? How can I change the way that I'm showing up? Is my relationship a one night stand? Am I closed off? What can I do to help bring that in? So, and then listen to Finance Friday. And I think like you said, we've got a few things coming up. So the more that you can improve or increase your knowledge around finances is also going to help.
Well, stay tuned. Like, the best place you'll find out about anything that we're offering is by being a subscriber to the Light Path. So jump on the website, make sure your email is in our mailing list because you'll hear about it first. And then obviously through social media, we always talk about what we're doing, so that you don't miss things like, the free Ignite Your Wealth Challenge like you did last year. But as always, obviously you can find and work with Natalie via the Light Path Collective. She is our money mentor. You'll easily find her there to connect with her and to have a session to, start to crack open this beautiful relationship and be supported in that. As always, thank you for the wisdom, the groundedness, and most importantly, I think the different perspective that you bring to what is pretty stale, I think, area in most of our lives. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.